West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes. Welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and we are here today to discuss the West Indies Breakout League. Obviously, over the last week or so, all the press releases have come from Cricket West Indies. It's in conjunction with the Caribbean Premier League. This has been discussed for the best part of the last year in terms of the kind of key stakeholders coming together to say, right, we need a T20 league, a domestic T20 league. And it's finally upon us. It's due to start, I believe the start date for the tournament, I believe it's April the 25th. Let me just check my dates. Yep, April the 25th to May the 10th. There will be 17 matches in total amongst the 6 sides. And it will all take place at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Trinidad. Of course, if you've joined the live show on any of the previous Mondays or so, I've been speaking about it. If you're a long-time listener, supporter, follower of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, the necessity of a domestic T20 league is something that myself and Santoki have been championing for the best part of 3 years. Kyron Pollard famously said about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, that there has to be a domestic, it might have been 2 years, there has to be a domestic league in the Caribbean. I've spoken about it so much, I've run out of things to say about it. The simple reality of the situation is this. CPL, and CPL is not the only league. I think there's a lot of leagues around the world, if you study them carefully, that are in serious danger of aging out. And what I would ask people to do is look at a lot of the B-level leagues and ask yourself, who are the big stars in those leagues? And try and count how many, no, I'm not talking about IPL. Notice I said B-level and C-level leagues. Who are the big stars? And what you're noticing, and CPL is very guilty of this, is that the franchise players, the heavily in demand players, they're all granddads out here. They're all uncles out here, like me, right? Whereby they're somewhere in their mid-30s, they're nearer to the end of their career than the start of their career, and they're going from league to league to league to league. And good for them. Everyone's got to eat a food. Everybody's got a nyam. Everyone's got to make their money, right? But if you don't look for the next generation of players, you are going to reach a point where the audience will vote with their feet. And CPL for the last 3 seasons has been suffering with this. They're going to suffer from it again this year as well, unless maybe some of the teams will actually watch the Breakout League this April and May and say, hold on a minute, look at that exciting young talent. Let's bring him into CPL this year. But this wasn't just about CPL. This was also about the West Indies cricket team. And Cricket West Indies noticing that CPL isn't fulfilling its end of the bargain. Now, you could say CPL don't owe Cricket West Indies anything, and there'd be a legitimate reason to argue that, right? But Cricket West Indies and West Indies select T20 sides could look at CPL and say, if we're just depending on CPL for our next generation of T20 players, international T20 players, we ain't getting anyone anytime soon. So it made sense both for CPL and for Cricket West Indies to create this domestic T20 league and try and find the next breakout stars, but not just try and find them, give them game time. Because one of the biggest issues that has happened with CPL, apart from the fact it's aging out, is that even when young youths are picked, and by young youths, we're talking about anyone between the age of 19 to 27. Remember that in the Caribbean, a young youth is 27, 28 because of the lack of game time, right? Even when young youths are being picked, they're not being picked to play in premier positions. More often than not, when a young youth is picked, they've got like the Junior Sinclair role, where they're a Lasco emerging player and they have to play 5 times. And every time you look at the 5 games that they play, they're basically a specialist fielder. They might get 1-2 overs with the ball if they're lucky, and they probably won't bat. So even with the Lasco emerging player rule, a lot of the teams over the last few years in CPL have played players because they have to, not because they want to. And even when they play them, how many of them are getting prominent roles? For every Akeem Geese, who last year Darren Sammy invested in for St. Lucia Kings and gave him that prominent role in the top 4, for every Akeem Geese, there's a Matthew Nandu, who like is an emerging player, barely plays, pointless being in the CPL squad, right? So the breakout league is good because it means that several youngsters now are going to get a chance not only to play, without the older guys just taking their positions, but being able to play in prominent roles and positions where, for example, they get to bowl their full allocation. For example, they get to have a bat in the top four where they should be batting but don't get to bat because either a West Indian international has that spot or an overseas player has that spot, and as somebody who should be batting 1, 2, 3, 4 instead is batting 7 and never really getting a bat. So several of these young youths are going to get the chance to play proper roles in the breakout league. But before we go any further into it, and that's kind of like my opening monologue on it, is that I think the important thing that people need to do, and what I would suggest everybody do, is write down what are the positions that West Indies should be looking for in the future. I'm not talking about near future, because in the near future, it is what it is, right? Someone like Dre Russ has already said, I'm playing the next World Cup because there's no one out there who's better than me. And I think he's right. There's no all-rounder in the Caribbean that produces the numbers that Dre can produce. So therefore, Dre has said, well, I best just play the next World Cup then. He might all say he wants to play the next one after 2026, because will there be anyone better than him by the next one as well? But we shall see, right? And this is what I wrote down. In the future, these are the most prominent roles the West Indies T20 side is likely to going to need. A death bowler, a new ball bowler, a left armour. And now, before anyone says to me, what about Obed McCoy? I mean, so let me rephrase that. A fit left armour. Somebody in the middle or top order who knows how to rotate strike as well as hitting big sixes. A leg spinner. I'll say that one more time. These are the most critical positions the West Indies international senior men's T20 side needs in the mid to what I'm trying to say here, in the mid to late future, if that makes sense. A leg spinner, a death bowler, a new ball bowler, or power play bowler, I should say, and a middle overs rotator. Those I think are and a left arm seamer. Those I think are the 5 most important positions that the West Indies should be aiming to find from the next generation of players. We don't need an opener. Brandon King's going to play for some time. Evan Lewis is going to play for some time. A couple of pinch hitters here and there. Opener's it's not an immediate position. Yes, people are going to say, but Matt Johnson Charles is still in the mix. But I'm thinking like a Brandon King and an Evan Lewis. I did have opener written down on my list, but I don't have that as a priority position right now that we need to find some youngsters coming up through the ranks, okay? So I don't think that's a priority position. And the other position that's not a priority position is big hitters. The big hitters are 10 a penny. From Nicholas Pooran to a Shafane Rutherford to a Shimron Hetmeyer to a Rodman Powell to a Shea Hope. The big hitters are 10 a penny. We don't need to find more big hitters. That's the West Indian DNA. Them type of players will come along regardless. We're talking about the X factor players that are the difference maker between being competitors and winning big matches. When West Indies won those 2 T20 World Cups, 2012, 2016, we had a leg spinner. I don't need to tell you who it was. If you don't know, then that shows me you don't know cricket. We had a leg spinner. We had a clearly identified death bowler. We had a power play bowler. We had someone who knew how to rotate in the middle overs. Did we have a left arm seamer? Actually, I don't remember us really having a left arm seamer per se, but that's an extra luxury that I'd like us to go looking for, because a lot of teams obviously want a left arm seamer for the different angle it produces and the ability to attack another team with something else up your arsenal, right? So we've had them in the past. It's what I'm looking for again in the future. So when you're looking at these T20 sides in this breakout league, I think you need to be looking with that in your mind, rather than just watching for the sake of watching, which I'll be doing. I don't know where it's going to be broadcast yet, but rather than watching for the sake of watching, I think you need to be watching with one eye open for, or like with a thought process of who or which players am I seeing that may well help fulfill or fill in rather the potential gaps in the West Indian team in the future. I think everyone's got to be kind of keeping that in mind as they watch this tournament this year. Just to remind everyone of the rules when these teams were constructed. So initially, every territory could protect 7 players from their territory. They were allowed 3 players anywhere between the age of 27 to 29 only. Everyone else had to be 26 and under. No player was allowed to be picked who had played more than 40 T20 games, domestic list A games, and no one was allowed to be picked if in addition to that they also played more than 10 international T20s. So that will explain to you, when I show you the squads in a minute, that will explain why certain people aren't there, because they probably fulfill either the overage criteria or they fulfill the you've played too many T20 games criteria. And also every team had to have a leg spinner. Then we went, so once they'd protected their 7 players, everyone then went into a draft of all the 26-year-old players and below, right? And they had to pick, I think, another however many 8 players or whatever it was, 7 more players for a 14 or 15-man squad. 2 of those players also had to be from an overseas territory, as in not overseas as in outside of the Caribbean, as in outside of your particular nation. They had to pick 2 more Caribbean players not from their nation, so to speak. So what I'm going to put up on the screen right now is the squads. There you go. Hopefully you can see them. So we'll start with Trinidad and Tobago. Obviously, everyone's got their own names. If you don't, I haven't put their names for this tournament, but just so you know, it's Trinidad and Tobago Legions. I have no idea what Legions has to do with Trinidad and Tobago, but that's what they're called. So this is their sides. Their overage players first are at the top. Kamil Puram, Amir Jangu, Jid Ghuli. Okay, cool. And you'll see from the rest of their players there. I won't read for all the players for you. I'm sure you can read them for yourself on the screen. Although I've just realized some people might be listening to this on audio, so maybe I better. So Christian Thurston, let me not even read them, because watch me get the pronunciations wrong and then people say that's not how you say his name. But what I will do for every player or for every team that I see or I put on the screen, I will talk about who I'm looking forward to see. And I'm not going to try and pretend, people. There are certain players in everyone's team where I'm like, I don't know who that is. I pride myself on knowing loads about cricket in the region, but I ain't gonna front. There's certain players here I'm like, I got no, like Damien Joaquim is what I'm gonna say, but it could be, for all I know, it could be pronounced Joachim. So somebody in Trinidad, let me know. I don't know who that is. I've never heard that person's name before. But who am I looking forward to see? For every team, I'll pick 2 people that I'm looking forward to see. For Trinidad side, actually, I like the look of the Trinidad side. Obviously, they've got the 2 young speedsters, McKenny Clark and Johan Lane, who you mostly see for the West Indies Academy. Good to see them with one of the franchises. But I'm going to go for 2 Trinis in this squad. Machel Govaya, I'm looking forward to seeing him. Lots been spoken about him in the region. You usually see him playing a lot of those kind of Dream 11 TKR Festival down bad Trinidad tournaments, but he's clearly got ability. We've seen him with CPL before. I think he was with was he not with St. Lucia in last year's CPL? And of course, my favorite Trinidad and Tobago young player, Joshua James. Again, I think Joshua needs to probably lose some weight, but if Joshua James ever hits his potential, he will be an absolutely devastating all-rounder. He has the capacity to be a genuine top-level all-round. I'm not saying top-level international class, but top-level, certainly domestic class. He's only 23, the Tobagan. I've got a lot of stops in Joshua James, and hopefully Trinidad put him in a prominent position. So someone like Joshua James, who's a genuine all-rounder, should be batting 6, as well as bowling his allocation of 4. So it'll be very interesting to see how Trinidad and Tobago intend to use him. Of course, get in the comments below, people, if there's anyone that you're looking forward to see from any other sides. But those are my 2 from Trinidad and Tobago. The Leeward Islands Thunder. This is their side. So they're overseas players. Kenneth Pennyfeather, Casey Carty, Kofi James. Cool. We know about them. I wonder if Kofi will open. Interesting. Can't even see my team properly on my own screen, you know. Let me do this. Can't even. Bloodfire. Right, okay, yeah. I wonder if Kofi James will open. Obviously, I've spoken about Kofi James a lot before on the podcast. Again, there's a lot of... the obvious standout player is Jewel Andrew. I don't know. Where will they play Jewel Andrew? That's the question for me. I expect Jewel Andrew. What more do you want me to say about Jewel Andrew? He is our next generational talent. So in this tournament, I'll be very intrigued to see where Leeward Islands Thunder play him because of how explosive he is. Will they have him at 5 and 6 as a late order slugger to kind of do the finisher role, or kind of like the late order platform, or what I call the late order cash-in role? Is that where they're going to put him, or are they going to play Jewel at 3 and 4 to give him as many overs as possible to go crazy? It'll be very interesting to see how they utilize Jewel Andrew in this side. And the other person I'm looking forward to seeing is Nathan Edwards. Nathan Edward, again, another West Indies Academy player, left arm seamer. If you saw any highlights of him from the Under-19 World Cup, he's got huge potential. Nathan Edwards, good seam movement, could get a bit more pace possibly, but again, because he offers the left arm variety, I'm intrigued to see how Nathan Edward goes. So he's on my list as well. Obviously, heard a lot about Michael Palmer, Jaden Carmichael. He used to be somewhat of a CPL regular. Haven't heard from him in a while, so I'll be intrigued to see how he goes as well for the Thunder. But this is quite a good side that the Leeward Islands have got together there. Some of their, like Kareem Agor is experienced, but he's not one of their overage players. He's only 26. Mikael Louis, relative to some of the others in the squad, is experienced, but he's only 24, so he's not one of their overage players. And when you add then in Casey Carty and Kofi James, there's huge potential in this Leeward Islands squad. Not sure about their pace stocks or their pace bowling stocks. Some question marks about that, but we shall see in the tournament. Again, get in the comments below if you've got anything separate that you want to add about each of the teams. The Windward Islands Infernos. So we've got their squad there. Good to see Shamar Springer back. So their their overage guys are Shamar Springer, Shadrach Descartes. Someone said it's Descartes and not Descartes, but anyways, and Daryl Cyrus. That's their 3 overage players. Alec obviously hasn't played enough international or domestic T20 matches, so he manages to get a pick in this tournament, which is good for him. I would assume he'll open possibly for the Windward Islands. What are they called again? Windward Islands Infernos. Shamar Springer, where's he been? Not in our 4-day competition this year. Hasn't been about for a bit. Remember, he got a cap. Where did he get that cap? Was he in Sri Lanka? I think he got an ODI cap in Sri Lanka last year. Was he also in the T20 setup as well? So Shamar Springer should be eyeing up this tournament, not just as a chance to make sure he gets a CPL deal, which he should later on this year, but also, again, to remind everyone of his potential vis-a-vis international appearances for the West Indies as well. So my 2 to watch in this Windward Islands squad or team is definitely... Is Shamar Springer one of my ones to watch? Oh, sorry, I've gone to Guyana there. Apologies, everyone. Didn't want to do that. Look at me taking the team off the page. I think I'm going to add Shamar Springer as one of my ones to watch for sure. Just because I haven't seen him in a bit of time. I feel like he's been gone for the last 4 months. So I want to see how he should be beaten. In fact, I set Shamar Springer the goal of beating up this tournament. Remember, someone like Andre Russell still believes he should be playing for the West Indies because there's no all-rounders who are better than him. So it's up to someone like a Shamar Springer to say, I can step up to the plate. Maybe not to be as good as Dre Russ. I think that's probably unfathomable. But it's a Dre Russ saying to the region, you man are shit, should be a disrespect to any all-rounder in the region to say, hold on a minute, let me show Dre Russ that I've got something about me. So Shamar Springer, I think, has to try beat up this tournament. Anybody else from this Windward side? I mean, again, I'm looking at some of these young youths in the Windward side. I don't even know some. I'm not going to lie. I don't know some of these players. Don't know who Noel Leo is. Don't know who Lee John is. Don't know who Kyron Phillips is. And in some sense, that's a good thing, right? Because the whole point of this tournament is for not just the West Indies selectors, but also people like me who purport to be media, or anybody, even including myself again, who purports to be a fan. We should want to see these new guys and go, I don't have any idea who the hell you are. Let me see what you've got about you. Let me see if you're a young youth that I should get excited about. So we'll see how some of these young youths go. you'll see there's some. This must be an error because there's someone on there called Rashawn Williams. He's 28. That can't be right because that would mean the Winwards have selected 4 people in the 27 to 29 bracket. So maybe that's an error. So who am I picking? Shamar Springer, and let's go for Johan Jeremiah. I think there's been a lot said about that youngster. He's only 25. I presume he might open. Obviously, he's made runs at domestic level in both the 4-day comp and Super 50. Let's see if he can adapt his game to the T20, because Johan Jeremiah is a perfect example of a domestic player who will never feature in CPL because the uncles and the granddads are taking up a lot of spots. So which CPL franchise would give Johan Jeremiah a spot unless he can show up in competitions like this and tell potential CPL scouts you don't have to keep going for the same dead overseas players when there's actual domestic talent that you could pick instead. Let's move to Guyana. So Guyana, what are they called again? Guyana Rainforest Rangers. Sack whoever came up with these names. Whoever CPL and Cricket West Indies paid to come up with these names, sack them. Someone got paid a big piece of change to come up with these names. They would have done focus groups. They would have done like market research, and someone would have gone, "Oh, Guyana's got a rainforest. Let's call them the Guyana Rainforest Rangers." Flipping nonsense. But anyways, whatever. So the Guyana side, their old guys they've only got 2. Where's their third old guy? They've only got 2 old guys according to this list. Niall Smith, who's 29, and Kemal Savary has got a pick. He's 28. So that's their 2 old guys. And then you've got the rest of their side. I mean, obviously, Kevin Sinclair is in there. He must have come close to touching the requisite amount of numbers to say that he can't play in this tournament. He must be really close to it. But the names I'm looking forward to seeing here. Everyone's going to say Ronaldo Ali Mohammed because recency bias suggests that because Ronaldo has shown an ability to hit a long ball in the 4 West Indies Championship, he's taken I think he's the lead in SEMA in this year's West Indies Championship. So, of course, people are going to say, "Oh, I want to see how Ronaldo Ali Mohammed goes." Well, I think within good reason. So I'll accept him as one to look at. Interesting that we see Ashmead Ned's name there. Now, Ashmead Ned is another player not in this year's West Indies Championship. No franchise picked him up. He's now too old for the West Indies Academy. So someone like an Ashmead Ned is a perfect example of how a West Indies domestic player just disappears into the abyss. If a territory doesn't pick them up, can't develop them, academy, now you're too old, no one therefore picks you up. What's supposed to happen to your career? So good to see Ashmead Ned get a pick in this side and get some cricket under his belt. I wouldn't have him as one of my ones to watch, though, as economical as he usually is in this format of cricket. We've got left-arm spinners aplenty, so I'm not really watching Ashmead Ned too tough. Definitely watching Ronaldo, Ali Mohammed, and I guess we've got to throw in Jediah Blades in there. We have to throw him in because, again, left-arm seamer. Sammy's already given Blades an ODI cap, which I thought was not the right thing to do. I get why he did it, and almost the fact he gave Blades an ODI cap goes back to my initial point when I started the video. Clearly, left arm seam is something the West Indies are looking for. So any team that has a left arm seamer, they have to be on the watch list because it's clearly something that we are targeting as one of those key positions to bring into any future West Indies side. So my 2 to watch in this side are Ronaldo Ali Mohammed and Jediah Blades. Good to see Rivaldo Clark get a pick. Get in the squad. Richie Lucknow took some wickets early on in the 4-day championship. See how he goes. Of course, Isaiah Thorne is in and about it as well. Moving on to the Barbados Pelicans. Why are the Barbados? I'm sure are there Pelicans in Barbados? Even if they are, why are they called the Barbados Pelicans? But we move. So their old guys are Lenico Boucher, and that's it. All the rest of their team is relatively young. So obviously we know Joshua Bishop will already do bits because Joshua Bishop should be on the verge of West Indies 18 call-up in all kinds of formats. So let's see how young Joshua Bishop gets on. Naeem Young, another player, probably graduated out of the West Indies Academy now. No one picked him up in the West Indies Championship. So again, he gets some cricket, having disappeared into the abyss of West Indies cricket because no one picked him up. So let's see how he goes. quite a few. You know what? There's a lot of players there in that Barbados squad who I think are good to see. Nathan Seeley get a pick. I'm glad for Nathan Seeley to be there. Obviously, former West Indies under-19 international, a bit of an all-rounder, off spinner, etc. So Nathan Seeley is one of my ones to watch. I want to see how young Nathan Seeley gets on. There's a lot to like about this Barbados side. Obviously, Zishan Matara, the leg spinner. Lot said about Zishan. I want to see how the youngster gets on. In fact, I'm going to pick more than Barbados' side is the first team where I'm picking more than 2 players. These are players I'm interested to watch for Barbados. Kadeem Elaine will finally get his spot opening, you would assume, for the whole tournament. The big hitter opening for the whole tournament, you would assume, for the Pelicans. I want to see how he gets on. He should be looking to dominate this tournament. Zishan Matara, the leg spinner, he should be getting all of his overs. I want to see how he gets on in this tournament. Ramon Simmons has had his injury woes. Left arm seamer showed huge potential at the age of 21. I want to see how well he's getting on in this comeback trail. And then Nathan Seeley, former West Indies under-19 captain. I want to see how he is getting on as well, getting some cricket under his belt. Obviously, got Shakir Paris there as well. He's a talented player. Kevin Wickham, he's a talented player. Laniko Boucher has just come into his own in the last 18 months or so. Boy, don't sleep on this Barbados side, you know. They could win this whole thing. They've got a really good side, that Barbados Pelicans side. And then lastly, Jamaica. What have we called Jamaica? Jamaica Titans. So, who have the Titans got? Their old guys are Diethma Anderson. I have no idea who that is. Leroy Lugg. Haven't seen Lugg about for about 2 years. He's back on the scene. Ramal Lewis, when he was a youngster, could hit a long ball. Probably should have. His career should be a lot further ahead than where it is right now. So that's their 3 older guys. Who are we looking forward to see? Jordan Johnson, for sure. He's on my list. Jordan has fallen off. I hope Jordan listens to this. Jordan has lost his way in the last year. No statement innings from Jordan Johnson. He needs to be looking to beat up this tournament and play some statement innings. More often than not, when I see a Jordan Johnson innings these days, he's looking to dominate the bowling before he's even really seen the bowling. Now, you may say, in T20 cricket, that should suit his skill set perfectly. You still have to see what the bowler's doing before you go after the bowler. So let's see if Jordan Johnson can remind people why stocks were high on him in Jamaica in the first place. I hope he's not too bossy about his cricket. Tamari Redwood, the young leg spinner, just like Matara for Barbados. We want to see how the young leg spinner Tamari Redwood gets on for Jamaica. So we want to look out for him as well. And then it's just a bunch of guys that, again, probably not many people have heard of. Michael Clark, Rion Edwards, Anthony Dacre, Brian Barnes. Is he Brad Barnes' sibling? I know Andrew Rambaran, he's played for the West Indies Academy. Zion Brathwaite, certainly heard of Zion in bits and pieces. But that Jamaica squad is super inexperienced. Yes, Kurt McKenzie is a West Indies international. Yes, Lugg has got Jamaica senior experience and Ramal Lewis and Javar Royal. But that's actually a very inexperienced Jamaica squad. And Jamaica's squad, look how many young guys they've got. Jordan Johnson, 19. Tamari Redwood, 18. Gavasta Edmond, 18. Rion Edwards, 18. Brian Barnes, 19. Andrew Rambaran, 19. Zion Brathwaite, 19. That's a super young squad by Jamaica. But I can't hate on it. That's what I want to see. I want to see the young youths given a chance. Nobody's squad is as young as that Jamaica squad in terms of loads and loads of young youths. So you would assume that they'll suffer the most because they've gone all in on the young youths. But that makes me doubly excited to see them. Let's see what these new guys are all about. And let's see if any of them can give us something to get excited about. We don't want to, and by excited, I don't mean we see a 5-for or we see like a 100 and just declare immediately that guy is the truth, but just something to kind of sink our teeth into and say, there's some talent out there. CPL hasn't done anything to find it. Well, they could say, well, we've got this tournament going, but we're not seeing it on the CPL stage. So here's some talent that we can really start to get our teeth into. Of course, the issue is with any kind of West Indian talent, undoubtedly there'll be scouts from other countries in the world who will come and watch this league and try steal these players away from us before they even get the chance to represent the West Indies in any shape or form. But you done know already. The last thing I just want to say about this, which I've not seen mentioned anywhere, given a lot of young youths are playing this tournament, what's the payment for all of this? Can somebody get in the comments below? What does anyone know what the payment is for this? Because some of these players have domestic franchise contracts. So someone like a Javar Royal has a domestic franchise contract with the Jamaica Scorpions. So he already gets paid as a professional. For some of these young youths who we've never seen before, like Gavasta Edmond, who's 18, what's the payment scale for this tournament? I'd love to know what the fees are. Where's this being broadcast? Is it a YouTube only thing? Who's doing a commentary on it? All of these questions I want answers for. Cricket West Indies, bring me in. Anyways, ladies and gents, that's the breakout league. Who's watched this episode? Who knows? Maybe you didn't know anything about it. Maybe you've not seen the squads yet. Maybe you've got more questions than I've got about it. Who excites you? What are you looking forward to seeing with this particular tournament? Which players have I not mentioned that you're like, Mash, you should watch out for this guy? Any of the insular guys who know your young youths, get in the comments below and say, Mash, watch out for this particular guy. You never mentioned his name, or you said that you don't know who he is, but this is the one to watch out for. Listen, as ever, you can find the Caribbean Cricket Podcast on all social media handles: X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok, OnlyFans, Snapchat. Wherever there is a social platform, we must be there. Spotify, Apple. Just go into Google, type www.caribbeancricketpodcast.com, and the links on our webpage will show you everywhere where you can find the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Follow, subscribe on all of those particular handles. The more you like, share, and subscribe, the more the algorithms help us. I think we just passed the 11.6K subscriber barrier on YouTube. So before you go, press subscribe on this video as well, leave a comment, etc. And more importantly, if you'd like to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast financially, you can go to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. Every little bit helps and counts, from $1, £1, £1, £1 Eastern Caribbean dollar, whatever. It all helps. One, pay the people who help contribute to this podcast, and two, help me make this be something that means I can leave my job. I'm Machel saying Patrick here, one of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. As ever, more content coming in the coming days. See you all very, very soon.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.